Welcome to Prep Central, New Mexico's premier high school sports show. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. We hope you'll consider that. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source. Hi, everyone. I am James Yodice. I am the high school sports editor at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome to Preps Central, the Journal's high school sports podcast. Welcome. We're going to talk a lot of high school football playoffs today. Matter of fact, almost all of it will be playoffs related. Before we get started, of course, shout out to Western New Mexico University, our sponsor. We thank them for their support. We're going to get right into it. The 11-man playoff brackets were announced on Sunday. First-round games in the 2A through 6A will be going on Friday and Saturday for the most part. So let's get into it. I'm going to work from bottom to top. So if you came to hear 5A and 6A talk, we're going to get to that at the latter part of the podcast today. We're going to start with the smaller classifications in 11-man, starting with Class 2A. So, Texaco, undefeated, number one seed. Of course, Wolverines been the best team by far all year. They just had that one really close game with Eunice. Santa Rosa is number 2. Legacy Academy from Albuquerque in its first 11-man season is seeded 3. Tularosa is seeded number 4. Santa Rosa obviously jumped up that spot. They beat Legacy Academy 27-20 the other night for the District 2 championship in Class 2A, and they won it on a kickoff return late in the game after Legacy had tied the game at 20. Santa Rosa returned the kickoff for a touchdown. That was the difference in the game. So those 4 teams, Texaco, Santa Rosa, Legacy, and Tularosa will have this week off. All the top 4 seeds and all the classes are off this week. So we've got 4 first-round games. This is a really interesting class because we've got 3 teams, JAL, Cuba, and Laguna Acoma, who are going to be traveling. I looked it up and I counted it up. They're going to be traveling a combined round trip over 2,400 miles between those 3 schools. You could drive from like here to Maine, I think, and that's about the same distance. So think about that for a second. JAL is a 10 seed. They're going to be playing at Raton. As I sit here today, I've heard that game might have been moved to Monday, but I can't confirm that. So check my X account at James D. Yodice. I'll update that when I can if I get confirmation. Obviously, JAL would not want to be traveling on Saturday for a Saturday afternoon game, which is when this game was scheduled. They're going to be coming up Friday, but it could be travel conditions. They're still going to be dicey. So I heard that game was moved to Monday, but I haven't confirmed yet. Cuba is going to be playing at Loving in the first round, and Laguna Acoma is going to be playing at Eunice. And the other game in that group is McCurdy and Navajo Prep. That's the 9-8 game. I don't think, other than maybe the JAL Raton game, the higher seeds here seem like they're probably going to advance. You know, one of the things to watch in this 2A bracket is, and I don't mean this as an insult to Laguna Acoma, but they're not going to go to Eunice and beat Eunice in the first round. They're just not. So, you know, Eunice is certain to advance to the quarterfinals, which would put them against Tularosa next week in the quarterfinals. And if you remember, those two had a great game in the regular season. Tule beat them, I think it was 39-36 in a district game in the regular season. So if we're looking ahead, that is a game certainly to watch. All the top seeds look to be in a strong position here. You know, on the bottom half of the bracket where Legacy Academy and Santa Rosa are, if those 2 teams were to win their quarterfinal games, they would play again in Santa Rosa in the semifinals down the road the Saturday before Thanksgiving. You know, and that's looking way ahead. Legacy has never been to an 11-man playoff bracket, so everything is new for the Silverbacks. But they finished 9-1. They were 9-0 going into Santa Rosa. The Lions got them on the last day, last Friday night. So Legacy goes into the playoffs 9-1. A team that we're certainly going to watch. A team that's certainly capable of playing with just about anybody, I think, except maybe Texaco or Eunice. I think those two teams, in my mind, are still the two best. Even though Tularosa beat Eunice in the regular season, I would still say, in my heart of hearts, I think Texaco and Eunice are the two best teams in this bracket. But the thing is, Eunice is in the same top half of the bracket with Texaco. So Eunice and Texaco, who played in the state championship game last year, those two teams could not meet in the final this year. They could, however, meet in the semifinals, which would be a tremendous amount of fun. And I think this year's game, if they play, and obviously Tularosa is going to have a whole lot to say about this, a Texaco Eunice game, if it comes to that, this year would be in Eunice, since last year they played in the championship game in Texaco. So interesting bracket with some potential games ahead. I'm not looking at any of the games this weekend as being overly compelling. The Jal-Raton game is compelling simply because of the travel situation. For Jal, it's such a hike. I mean, I looked it up. It was about 440 miles or so, which is about the same distance from Albuquerque to Denver, if you want to put it in that context. That is a hike. And like I said, Jal, when teams have to travel that far, frequently they'll come up on Friday if the game is scheduled on a Saturday. So, as I said, I'll keep you guys updated on Jal-Raton, whether it goes off at Saturday at 1 as scheduled or it gets moved to Monday. Let us move into the 3A bracket. I think it's highlighted by, for me, the 9-8 game between Thoreau, which is the 9 seed, and Hope Christian, which is the 8 seed. Those two are playing Friday night at Milne Stadium here in Albuquerque. These two played a couple of years ago with Thoreau as a 5 and Hope as a 12, and Thoreau beat them. So I think we can expect a pretty physical game. I was talking to Hope coach Fernando Salinas, and he told me one of the things that surprised him 2 years ago when they played Thoreau was just how big and physical the Hawks were. So I think Hope has a better idea of what to expect here as they face them 2 years later in terms of style. Obviously different personnel, but in terms of style. And Hope comes in at 4-6, and they got a first-round home game largely because of the brutality of their schedule. They played a very difficult 3A schedule, and they come out of the toughest of all the 3A districts, which is District 2, and 5 of the top 10 teams in this bracket are from the same district. St. Michael's unbeaten at number 1. Robertson with 1 loss, having lost to St. Mike's last weekend for the district championship. Robertson is 3. West Las Vegas is 6. Hope is 8. Pewaukee Valley is 10. So that district produced half of the top 10 teams in the 3A bracket, just to give you an idea of how difficult that bracket is. And it also explains why Hope, even with a 4-6 record, got an 8 seed and got a home game in the first round. But, the Huskies, they're going to have a fighting chance. The winner of this game is going to play St. Mike's, and frankly, that's going to be just a tall task for whoever wins this game, whether it's Thoreau or whether it's Hope. St. Mike's has really just been pounding people into the ground all season. Physical team, a team that runs the ball exceedingly well. So, we'll see how that part of the bracket shakes out, but, St. Mike's is going to be heavily favored there. On the bottom half of the bracket, you've got Dexter as a 2 seed. Dexter is also undefeated. The Demons had a terrific offseason, a lot of buzz surrounding that team heading into the regular season. They went 10-0, just like St. Mike's did. They've got a high-powered offense, and they've beaten some good teams along the way. Teams like Socorro, teams like Nimi. So this Dexter team is certainly going to be a threat to get deep into the playoffs. St. Mike's remains an overwhelming favorite to win state. There's just no other way around it. Even though Dexter and St. Mike's have not played, St. Mike's remains the overwhelming favorite in this bracket. But the bottom half of the bracket, where Dexter is, where Robertson is of the 3 seed, there's some room for volatility there. You've got, I think Dexter's going to play either Pewaukee Valley or Hatch Valley in the quarterfinals, and Robertson is going to play the winner of West Las Vegas and Ruidoso. Those two teams are supposed to play Saturday at 1. I don't know if that game will get changed or not either. As I sit here, it's Thursday, November 7th, so about 48 hours away. Las Vegas supposedly is getting hammered with snow during this big storm that's been hitting the northern half of the state. I mean, can they get all the snow off the field in time to kick off on Saturday? I don't know. But that game still remains at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Ruidoso, the 11 seed, that town's been through a lot, obviously, going back to the summer fires and floods. Ruidoso gets an 11 seed. They're going to play at West. These two teams played back in week 3, and West beat Ruidoso 33-7. So, a rematch there, but you got to like West's chances. They've been a really solid team all year. The other first-round game is Hot Springs, the 12 seed, playing New Mexico Military Institute out of Roswell. Nimi is the 5 seed. The Colts have had another really good regular season. Interestingly, if Nimi wins this game, and you got to think they would as a 5 seed, they would play at Socorro, the 4 seed, in the quarterfinals. Nimi and Socorro just played the other night on Friday night for that district championship game, and Nimi beat Socorro 42-35, which is Socorro beat Nimi 42-35, which is why Socorro got a first-round bye, and Nimi has to play in the first round this week. Had the result been flip-flopped, had Nimi won that game, Nimi certainly would have been the team that would have had a bye this week, and Socorro would be playing this week in the first round. So a potential rematch, a really good game from the other night we could see again next week in the quarterfinals. So interesting to see how District 2's teams, Robertson, West, and St. Mike's, how this projects deep into the bracket. Whether we'll see multiple teams get to the Final Four, we'll have to see. But, St. Mike's, clearly a big favorite here in 3A. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about Class 4A. Bloomfield, undefeated Bloomfield, is the number 1 seed as expected. Bobcats have been dominant against most everybody on their schedule this year. So Bloomfield is the number 1 seed. St. Pius, the district champion from District 2, gets the number 2 seed. Then you have Taos, which just beat Bernalillo the other night, 21-14. So Taos jumped over Bernalillo in the district standings, and so Taos gets the higher seed for state. So the good news for Taos is they are now on the other side of the bracket away from Bloomfield. Bernalillo gets the number 4 seed. So Bernalillo has the weekend off, but now Bernalillo is in the same top half of the bracket with Bloomfield, and any road for the Spartans to get to a state championship game is going to have to go through Bloomfield. So we're going to see how that pans out. Bloomfield, of course, I've mentioned this before. I was at the Bloomfield-Bernalillo game a few weeks ago in October up in the Four Corners, and Bloomfield won 20-7. A game that Bernalillo had its chances, but that Bloomfield defense was excellent on a really tough night to play. Weather conditions were very much like they are out there yesterday and today. A lot of gloom, a lot of rain, a lot of cold. So Bernalillo, that road is going to have to go through for them, Bloomfield, if it comes to that in the semifinals. Of course, Bloomfield, you have to like their chances to get through at least the first round, their first game, which is a quarterfinal game next week. Bernalillo has a much tougher path. Look, Bernalillo was going to play either Portales or Chaparral in the first round. Portales and Chaparral just played last week in the final week of the regular season in Portales. Portales won pretty comfortably by multiple touchdowns. Now they're playing again here in the first round of the playoffs, again in Portales. So the winner of this game will travel to Bernalillo in the quarterfinals. If we get to a Portales-Bernalillo game, these two played back in the regular season, early on in the regular season. Portales, the week before, had just lost its starting quarterback, Paxton Culpepper, and the night they played Bernalillo up here, they lost another quarterback, Dallas Lozano. So they were down to their third quarterback by the time they played Bernalillo. I think Bernalillo won that game 14-7. Portales was down to its third-string quarterback that night, and just, look, high school teams cannot absorb losses to their top 2 quarterbacks. Nobody can. Not Centennial, not La Cueva, not Artesia, not Roswell. You get down to your third-string quarterback, whoever you are, you're going to have a problem having an offense that's going to be able to move the ball consistently, unless you've just got the biggest, most manly offensive line in the state, and you can just hand it off and run the ball down people's throats. So Portales now comes up as a 5 seed in the bracket. They're going to be heavily favored to beat Chaparral, a district rival, in the first round. That game, I believe, is on Friday. And then the winner would play Bernalillo next week. So the Spartans, Bernalillo is a team I'm just monumentally interested in for so many reasons. Having lost their season finale at Taos now, we're going to see how they rebound. They have a week off to kind of regroup. That defense is still plenty good enough to beat anybody, including Bloomfield. They held Bloomfield to 20 points, which is a great achievement, even if it doesn't sound like it. So we're going to see how that pans out. Manzano's been a really roller coaster type of team this year. Manzano started 5-1. Remember, Manzano is a 5A level team in terms of enrollment. They decided to play down into 4A, and they were allowed to do that because of their past several seasons. Their results were so poor. There's a new rule set up by the NMAA that allows a team to play down a class when their results are just not good enough. Rio Grande did this. Rio Grande moved down from a 6A level to 5A this year. Manzano moved from 5A to 4A. So Manzano starts 5-1, playing really good football, but then Manzano lost its last 4 games. So Manzano comes into the playoffs limping. They are 5-5. They fell to an 11 seed. And their defense really has not played all that badly. They have not, other than a weird loss to Albuquerque Academy, which didn't even make the playoffs. Academy hung 56 on them several weeks ago. Manzano's defense has been playing pretty well. They held St. Pius to 14 offensive points last week in the regular season finale, which is an achievement. St. Pius has a very highfalutin offense, so that was quite an achievement. But Manzano's 4 losses in a row drops them down in their district, which means their seed suffers as a result. Manzano's an 11 seed. They're going to travel to number 6 Espanola Valley. That game was originally scheduled for Friday at 6. It has been moved, presumably because of weather and conditions, field conditions and whatnot, to Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Espanola Valley, and 2 good defenses on display here. Espanola Valley has a fine defense. They really do. And Espanola Valley was in the quarterfinals last year. They beat St. Pius in the first round, got to the quarters, got beat up pretty good there. But Espanola Valley trying to get to the quarterfinals for the second straight year, and they're going to be at home and favored against a slumping Manzano team. I talked to Manzano coach Stephen Johnston the other day. We were talking about this matchup. I don't think he's concerned defensively with where they're at, but as he told me, look, there have been so many mistakes on the offensive side of the ball, and if they don't clean them up, they're going to get eliminated. As it would be for any team, but he feels like if they can just clean things up a bit on the offensive side of the ball, they've got enough weapons to get through to the next round. We're going to see how that plays out, of course. When you're slumping, boy, I don't know. If you're a high school team that's lost 4 in a row, can you flip the switch and get things going back in the right direction like they were in the first 6 weeks for Manzano? I don't know. The winner of this game is going to play Taos at Taos next week in the quarterfinals. So that's a game I'm certainly really interested in. Silver and Grants, 2 district rivals. They're both in the St. Pius district. They are playing. That is the 10-7 game. Silver traveling as the 10 seed. Grants at home is the 7, and Grants has shown plenty of flashes of being a really good team. This team almost beat Bernalillo on the road a couple of weeks ago. Bernalillo scored a late touchdown to win 15-12. That was a game Grants was leading in the fourth quarter. Grants has had some good results. Grants is coming off a big loss to Bloomfield. No shame there. Bloomfield whipped up on most everybody other than Bernalillo in that district. So that is going to be an interesting matchup. Silver is a young team. They are a super young team with Coach Jerome Ortiz. They're with their youth, probably not equipped to do much in this bracket this year. The winner of this game would play St. Pius in the quarterfinals. But Silver's a team, I don't want to say they're rebuilding, but they had to retool with some younger kids this year. And Silver's going to be back, I think, prominently in the 4A picture, before too long, maybe another year or two, kind of like St. Pius was a couple of years ago. And I've talked about St. Pius being on an accelerated success schedule. I didn't see this until next year. They're a 2 seed this year and fully capable of getting to the final in their bracket. Interestingly, if we get Silver and St. Pius in the quarterfinals, if it comes to that, Silver would have to win on the road. That would be an upset. Silver did a great job against St. Pius. They came up here and played them on a Thursday night. Maybe, 5 or 6 weeks ago, I think now. And Silver's defense played awfully, awfully well and held St. Pius just to a couple of scores. So, that's a matchup I would be interested to see. On the other hand, Grants, like I said, they're kind of a mystery. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to get from them in the playoffs going forward. But look, the bottom line, much like St. Mike's in 3A, everything is going through Bloomfield. In the 4A bracket. That's just the way it is. There's no other way to say it. Now, Bloomfield in the first round would play either Moriarty or Valencia. That's the other first-round game this week out at Valencia on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Two really good run teams in this game. Valencia with their running back, Michael Storms III, who's had just a really, really strong season for the Jaguars, who won 7 games in the regular season. Moriarty's had some good results, and Coach Gabe Romero, that team is always tricky to play. Their offense is unique, but they've always been a really good running team. I talked to Gabe about this game. He said it's possible they may have to open it up a bit and throw the ball, which is not really Moriarty's forte if they want to advance. But, the 9A games are always the most fascinating in the bracket on the whole. So those two teams playing on Saturday at 1 o'clock, winner to go on the road at Bloomfield next week. So let's move on. Let's go to the 5A bracket. As we expected, Roswell seeded number 1, Artesia seeded number 2. Deming and Gadsden played last week. Deming beat Gadsden 15-7. I think what we would have had Gadsden won the game was Gadsden 3 and Deming 4. Deming wins this game last week, so Deming is 3, Gadsden is 4. So all those teams, all from the same district, get the first-round byes. Los Alamos ended up as the number 5 seed. I did not have Los Alamos at number 5. I thought they were a 7 at best. And look, Los Alamos has had a fine season. Nobody is saying otherwise. But if I'm putting Los Alamos on the field against the 5 or 6 seeds, or I should say against like either Lovington or Mayfield, I'm taking Lovington and Mayfield every time. I don't think Los Alamos is the 5th best team in 5A. I think 7 was where they belonged. But the criteria, especially the coaches' sheet, the coaches voted on the last Saturday, when the regular season ended, and Los Alamos clearly got a big bump from the coaches there because both Lovington and Mayfield is the 6, Lovington's the 7. Both those teams had better max preps rankings than Los Alamos. Now, in the criteria points, your overall record is a criteria. Los Alamos had an advantage there. Your finish in your district is a criteria point. Los Alamos had a clear advantage there. The max preps poll is a criteria point. Both Lovington and Mayfield had the advantage there. So it was the coaches poll where Los Alamos clearly made the difference and got a 5 seed. So we're going to see about Los Alamos. We're going to see. Like I said, I had them at 7 on my list. Good team. Are they number 5? No, I don't think so personally, but we're going to see how it pans out, right? Los Alamos is opening at home. That game was Friday night. They were supposed to play Valley at home Friday night. That game has been moved. Coach Billy Kobos from Valley, as I sit here today, Coach Billy Kobos from Valley told me that game had been moved to Saturday at noon in Los Alamos. Probably almost certainly weather and snow related there as well. So Los Alamos beat up on Valley 63-33 in the regular season, their district partners. Valley gets in as a 12 seed. They barely get in. Look, they were awful for the first month. They couldn't score. They couldn't move the ball for a full month. And then Valley won a couple of key games coming down the stretch to get themselves into the field. So Valley's going to have a tough test. Obviously, Valley's going to have to keep this game in the 20s or 30s realistically for them to have a chance. This team is not explosive. They can score a little now, but they can't trade with Los Alamos. That's it. Los Alamos is a very high-powered team. They can get up and down the field quite a bit. They will put some points up on the board against you. So Valley's got to find a way somehow to keep this game in the 20s or 30s if it wants to have a chance. The winner of this game will play Gadsden in the quarterfinals next week. I love the Gadsden story, as I say all the time, and I'm going to keep repeating it. Gadsden broke a 50-year playoff drought a couple of years ago. Got in as a 10 seed, even won a game in the first round. Actually, I think they won at Los Alamos in the first round, then lost in the quarterfinals. Gadsden got a first-round home game last year and lost a 13-12 game to Mayfield in the first round. And now Gadsden has done enough to get a first-round bye. Good for them. The Panthers are going to have their hands full, though. I mean, if Los Alamos beats Valley, and you have to think they probably will, that's Los Alamos and Gadsden in the quarterfinals next week. That would be an interesting test. Roswell, which just has one loss to Lovington, and this is in the first half of the year when Lovington was playing much better. Lovington slumped toward the end. I think they lost 4 out of 5. But, Roswell is the number 1 seed. They're going to play either Highland or Miyamura in the quarterfinals. Highland is the 9 seed. Miyamura is the 8 seed. Highland's going out to Gallup to play the Patriots on Friday night. I was at their game at Milne Stadium in the regular season, a game Miyamura won 36-31. It was a really entertaining game. These teams traded quite a bit. So this is very much a coin flip game, just as the seeds would tell you, 9 versus 8. So, but, the conditions Friday night in Gallup, you got to expect are going to be brutally cold. I've covered some Friday night games in November in Gallup quite a while ago. It can be just brutally cold out there on the Western Plains. So Highland's going to have to adjust to that. They're going to need a lot of Amiri Mumba if they want to advance past this first round. That's it. Amiri is what makes this team go. Miura much more versatile offensively than Highland is. They can throw it. They can run it. They're an entertaining team. They had some kids, I thought, that could play, that could move the ball. So that should be a really entertaining game. I would expect something very close like we had in the regular season. So the winner there will get Roswell. Artesia on the bottom half of the bracket is the 2 seed. Artesia will play either Goddard or Lovington, which is one of several rematches we have from the regular season, like Valley, Los Alamos, and Highland, Mira. Goddard and Los Alamos are district partners. Lovington really put it to the Rockets 46-6 in the regular season. Goddard's only 2-8. They're the number 10 seed. So, the Rockets, it's been a struggle for them, largely because of the district they're in. They've just took a beating to all the teams in that district that are in front of them: Artesia, Roswell, Deming, Gadsden, Mayfield, Lovington. They just really took a beat. They only beat 2 teams. They beat Valley and they beat Santa Teresa. So Goddard going to have its hands full with Lovington. Lovington trying to get back on track. Lovington had a win last week to snap a 4-game losing streak, I believe. So Lovington looking to get some positive momentum going. This is a chance to do that. And then we could see Lovington playing Artesia, a matchup we should always look forward to in the quarterfinals. We'll see how the Goddard-Lovington game shakes out. Now, the other first-round game is Belen, the 11 seed. And Belen got the 11 seed because they beat Valley in district. Otherwise, it would have been Valley at 11 and Belen at 12. Belen, an 11 seed. And good to see Belen back in the playoffs. They had such a tough 2023 season. It was brutal in every single way. So Belen gets in as an 11 seed. They are traveling to Mayfield on Saturday at the Field of Dreams, 1 o'clock game on Saturday. Mayfield is one of the most interesting teams in this bracket. Make no mistake. Look, they took Roswell to overtime and lost that game 28-27 just a couple of weeks ago because Roswell went for a 2-point conversion in overtime. Last week, Roswell and Mayfield and Artesia were tied at 28 in the fourth quarter. So this Mayfield team, which also beat Lovington on the road in overtime, and we talked about earlier, and lost that game to Deming with like 12 seconds left. They lost a home game to Deming. So this Mayfield team knows it can play with anybody in this bracket. So as a 6 seed, watch out for these guys. The winner of this game, this is a 6 versus 11, will play Deming in the quarterfinals. And after the way Deming beat Mayfield in the regular season, you got to imagine Mayfield would love to have another crack at Deming. Those 2 teams frequently play tremendous games. I've gone back through some of their results. These 2 teams frequently play close and exciting games that come down to the wire. So the winner of this game, and Mayfield's going to be a heavy favorite against Belen, no question, is going to go play Deming in the quarterfinals. That would be one of many interesting quarterfinals if it comes to that next week. And, of course, we'll break that down next week. So there you go. 5A bracket, unlike 3A and 4A. 3A with St. Mike's, 4A with Bloomfield. There are multiple teams that can win the 5A bracket. There are. Roswell and Artesia are clearly the 2 best teams out there, and they're going to be favored, obviously, by seed. But I think, realistically, they're favored to play again in the state championship game on November 30th. And if they gets that far, the game this year will be in Roswell at Wool Bowl. But there are other teams that can make noise out there. Like I said, Mayfield is one. Neither Deming nor Gadsden really had a whole lot of success against Roswell or Artesia, if we're thinking ahead to potential games like in the semifinals. Mayfield and Lovington, however, Lovington is the 7, Mayfield is the 6. They had more success against those teams. Like I said, Lovington lost a lot of momentum in the second half of the year. So we're going to see how the Wildcats regroup here in the playoffs. Like I said, Mayfield, I think, is the team that maybe intrigues me the most outside of Artesia and Roswell. And this is no disrespect to Deming or Gadsden or Los Alamos, but Mayfield is a 6. That team could win a game or 2, maybe even 2 or 3 in the playoffs. Watch out for them. That's going to be a bracket I'm going to be really interested to watch. Okay, last up, the Class 6A bracket. which begins. All these games are scheduled Friday night, which is both good and bad. I'm going to be at the 9-8 game. That's Hobbs, the 9 seed, playing at El Dorado, the 8 seed. That's Friday night at Wilson Stadium. And a really interesting matchup. I mean, Hobbs has a quarterback named Brock Beatty. Hobbs likes to throw it. They got a lot of receivers. They get involved in their pass game. A lot of kids. They're tough to defend for that reason because, they don't necessarily have that one true alpha in the offense, but they've got half a dozen kids they can go to at any moment. So that makes a team difficult to defend. El Dorado, on the other hand, I've talked about them. Look, El Dorado's had to use a few different kids at quarterback throughout the season. And they've been pretty inventive with their running game. Art Abreu, the former head coach at Taos, came over to El Dorado during the offseason. He's now El Dorado's offensive coordinator. And Art's done a pretty good job dialing up some creative stuff in the ground game, using multiple kids under center in the shotgun, bringing kids in to run the Wildcat. El Dorado's had to be inventive that way. So if the weather is really cold and not conducive for passing the ball on Friday, that's probably an advantage for El Dorado. El Dorado has the better defense in this game too, no question. And that's, ground game and defense. That's, two things that'll get you pretty far in a football season. We're going to see. Like I said, if the weather conditions are even remotely windy, that's not good news for Hobbs, the team that certainly will throw it a lot more. El Dorado rarely throws it, and they're not a prolific pass team by any means. As a matter of fact, I've said this before, El Dorado, and now having seen Centennial last week in person for the first time, El Dorado and Centennial, two teams that rely heavily on their ground attack, not on their pass game. So this is one of those games El Dorado cannot afford to fall behind by multiple scores. They're not really built to come from behind that way. Small deficit, fine. A larger deficit would be problematic for a team that doesn't throw it all that well. So, interesting matchup. The winner there, of course, is going to get La Cueva in the quarterfinals. La Cueva 10-0, ran the table for the most part pretty easily in their district, other than maybe the first 2.5, 3 quarters against Los Lunas. La Cueva destroyed everybody else in its district. So La Cueva, obviously number one, going after another 6A state championship. Bottom of the bracket, Centennial 10-0. Seeded number 2. I finally had a chance to watch them in person the other night against Las Cruces, a game that Centennial won 42-24 to clinch the District 3 championship. Zayden Davis, he looks a lot like Cam Dyer physically. He's a big kid. He's tall like Cam, very athletic like Cam. He's a New Mexico State commit, but not at quarterback, at linebacker. He's not as quick, I'd say, or necessarily as elusive as Cam Dyer. I think that is fair to say, but that does not mean that Davis is not a very skilled and dangerous runner. He had close to 250 running the ball against Las Cruces the other night. He's a big physical guy. He doesn't mind initiating contact, and he's a guy that you can get worn down trying to tackle over the course of 48 minutes. But having said that, Centennial's got other weapons that they can use to run the ball. We're going to see Jordan Lucas is one. And they've got kids that can carry the load, and Rudy Rios is the other one he was over 100 yards against Las Cruces as well. So they've got 3 guys they can use. They were over 400 yards rushing against Las Cruces. So they got guys they can run the ball. They've got a big physical, really good chemistry type offensive line. So we're going to see how that goes, because they didn't throw. I think by my count they threw for less than 50 yards against Las Cruces. They don't throw it much, and when you run it like that, you don't have to throw it much. So we're going to see if that pans out, because Centennial is in the bottom half of the bracket with number 3 seed Cleveland. Cleveland won 9 in a row after losing their opener to Centennial at home in Rio Rancho. So Cleveland gets a 3 seed. Cleveland beat up on Rio Rancho the other night. I think it was 42-13, I believe. So Cleveland heads in with a ton of momentum. Cleveland's been playing the best football of anybody in 6A. Having seen everybody now, including Centennial, I would say now, having seen everybody firsthand, Cleveland's playing the best football over the last 4 to 6 weeks. That does not mean they're favored in 6A. That does not mean they will win 6A. But I think they've been playing better, even better than La Cueva. We're going to see. La Cueva is frequently known for flipping the switch when it comes to the playoffs and finding another gear. They did that last year when they went into Cleveland, which was undefeated and dominant, and La Cueva whipped them 35-14. So we're going to see how this pans out. I'm going to predict a La Cueva Cleveland final right here. And, okay, if you're from Centennial, you're probably pissed off at me. I get it. So Cleveland, as the 3 seed, would face the winner of either Piedra Vista or Los Lunas. Piedra Vista is an 11 seed. Los Lunas is a 6. Piedra Vista, and you just don't see this happen very often. You just don't. Piedra Vista was outside the top 12 all year. They beat Sandia the first game, then they lost, I think, 7 games in a row. And then they closed the year beating Cibola. And then last week they beat Farmington 29-19. So not only does Piedra Vista play its way into the playoffs, they simultaneously knocked Farmington out. And you just don't see that happen very often, specifically not with two teams from the same small city. So Piedra Vista, they got scoreboard right over Farmington. Not only did they get in and Farmington didn't, but they're specifically the reason why Farmington, which was inside the top 12 all year comfortably. And Farmington finished the year Max Preps rating-wise ahead of several teams that did get into the playoffs. So Piedra Vista has the pleasure of knowing that they got themselves into the tournament and also knocked out their biggest rival at the same time. You just don't see that happen very often, but that's what happened this week. So I talked to Coach Jared Howell from Piedra Vista about his matchup with Los Lunas. Look, they're playing with a bit of house money. They're 3-7. Nobody expects them to win this game. They're not going to be favored by other than the team itself. They're not going to be favored to beat Los Lunas, and Los Lunas is a strong team. So Piedra Vista has so much to play for, and yet they can play with no pressure on their shoulders, which is a luxury in the playoffs, I think. Some teams get into the playoffs and they tighten up a bit. Piedra Vista is not going to have that problem. But look, Piedra Vista's defense has a big task ahead of it. Los Lunas is coming off, a 44-0 win over Sandia last week. Really strong win. Tigers quarterback Caden Reese is one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the state. Maybe the third best running quarterback in the state after Cam Dyer and Zayden Davis. But Los Lunas has a couple other guys that can, carry the ball. Jordan Howard, Jagger Casillas, plus Reese. They've got 3 strong running options, much like Centennial does. And the Los Lunas defense has been playing pretty good football. So you got to like Los Lunas. That'll be my pick this week. You got to like Los Lunas. It's hard to go with PV, even with them coming off that big win over Farmington. The 10-7 game in 6A is Sandia a 10, Rio Rancho a 7. That game is Friday night at Rio Rancho. Rio Rancho knocked Sandia out of the playoffs last year in the quarterfinals when Sandia was a 4 seed. And Sandia was the 4th best team in state? No. Nobody believed that, but the criteria made them the 4 seed. Rio Rancho went into Milne last year and beat them and knocked them out. Sandia is going to be on the road for this one. Rio Rancho has been a tough team to get a handle on. I was talking about Piedra Vista a minute ago. Piedra Vista came down and played Rio Rancho here a few weeks back and I think lost 36-33. That did a lot for Piedra Vista's strength rating, even if they didn't win the game, and gave us maybe an indication that they were playing better ball than their record indicated. So now Rio Rancho, which has been hard to peg, is playing Sandia. I like Rio Rancho in this game. Look, Sandia's a nice team, but I don't think personnel-wise they can quite deal with Rio Rancho. I just don't see it. A lot of things are X factors here. Special teams in particular, the weather. We'll see, but the 10-7 game there, the winner of that game will go down and play Centennial in the quarterfinals. And I mentioned the Piedra Vista Los Lunas winner will play Cleveland. So the other game we need to talk about is the 12-5 game. That's West Mesa, which was the last team in, is going to go down to the Field of Dreams on Friday to play number 5 Las Cruces. So, look, West Mesa is going to be an extreme underdog in this game, no question about it. Las Cruces, really good team. The Las Cruces Centennial game was straight up, very close for a half. Centennial picked up 2 touchdowns in 54 seconds, about midway through the third quarter, one at the end of a long touchdown drive. The other one being a defensive score. So it took a while for Centennial to get some separation on Las Cruces. Las Cruces is a very potent 5 seed. They're going to be heavily favored. I don't expect them to have any problem with West Mesa. West Mesa is a plucky team. They are, and maybe they keep it close for a little while. But look, Las Cruces is just a better team on both sides of the ball. If Las Cruces advances, as they are favored to do, we will end up with a Las Cruces Volcano Vista game in the quarterfinals next week. Volcano Vista was the 4 seed. That was the 4th team that got a bye after La Cueva, after Centennial, and after Cleveland. Volcano Vista gets the 4 seed, so they're off this week. So Las Cruces if it advances, we'll be back up here at Community Stadium next week to play Volcano Vista. I covered their game in the regular season. That was a game Las Cruces led by double digits and ended up losing on a late field goal, 27-24 to Volcano Vista. So that would be a super interesting matchup down the road if we get to that. But I think for now, La Cueva clearly the favorite. Are they the only team that can win state? No, I think most everybody is in agreement. It's one of three teams. It's La Cueva, it's Centennial, it's Cleveland. One of those three is likely to win state. It would, a team like Volcano Vista, who's a 4 seed, a really good team, they're going to have to go through La Cueva probably and either Cleveland or Centennial to win state. That's a hard ask. Volcano Vista didn't even score in their game against La Cueva, admittedly a game that got cut short by weather, and Cleveland beat up Volcano pretty good a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, it's the top three. It's hard to see somebody outside the top three getting to the championship game. It just is. That's not to say it could not happen. It's just hard to see it. That's all. And I'll go on record right now, as I just did, and say that I like La Cueva and Cleveland to make it to the state championship game. Even though Cleveland lost to Centennial once already, Cleveland clearly playing much better football now. One of the X factors that I can't quite account for yet is Juan Munoz, the Cleveland running back, their best running back, who went out in the Volcano Vista game early in the first quarter, did not return. I do not believe he played in the Rio Rancho game either. He was injured. And we'll talk more about this next week when I have a better idea of what's going on. Can Cleveland win it all without Munoz playing? That is an X factor. He's really good. He's one of the best running backs in the state. So that is a little bit of an X factor and something to consider if eventually down the line we get to a Cleveland Centennial game, which we may. That's something to consider. So all this is fun. It's always fun to speculate and we'll look forward to all the championship games in the 11-man brackets will be on Saturday, November 30th, I believe. 8-man and 6-man. 8-man is into their quarterfinals this week, 6-man into their semifinals. So a lot of prep football. I believe 26 games going on this week across the 7 divisions. Before we get out, we need to talk briefly about a couple of other state events. State cross country coming up on Saturday at Albuquerque Academy, starting at 9 a.m., running until about 3 o'clock. The 5A divisions is kind of in the middle, I think around 1240, 125, I think. So we'll see if Gianna Raymer can win another state title. The 5A boys race is going to be really interesting between Corbin Coombs, Jaron Wisner, his teammate from Oregon Mountain, and Charlie Voss from Rio Rancho, who didn't run very well at the Extravaganza meet a couple of weeks back, finished a distant third to those 2 Oregon Mountain kids. A lot of storylines. I'll be there at cross country most of the day before I peel off to go cover some state soccer. That was the last thing we're going to talk about briefly today. State soccer finals coming up Friday and Saturday at UNM. Friday, the 1A through 3A championship games. The boys game at 4 o'clock, all the championship games at UNM. New Mexico Military Institute, the number 4 seed, playing number 2 Santa Fe Prep. That'll be 4 o'clock. At 6:30, you have Sandia Prep girls going for a 4th straight title, playing newcomer Cottonwood Classical Prep, which is literally right across the street from the Journal here. First-year varsity program. All their kids were playing at other schools, at least the ones that are older than the 8th grade. They had kids coming in from Albuquerque High, Del Norte, Cibola. That's where they were playing last year because Cottonwood Classical did not have a varsity program. So these kids were allowed to play at other schools and come back without, having any transfer penalty. So Cottonwood in its first varsity season gets all the way to the championship game. They beat Ruidoso in overtime in the semifinals, so good to see CCP in the final. They'll play a juggernaut in Sandia Prep, which has been great. Saturday, 4 games to finish the season. The 4A games are at 10 a.m. with the boys, 12:30 p.m. with the girls, and we've got number 1 versus number 2 in both 4A and 5A across the board. The 5A games will end the day at 3 o'clock. We've got the boys, number 1 Centennial with just 1 loss, against number 2 La Cueva, which beat Rio Rancho 1-0 last night, Wednesday night, out in the snow at the APS complex. That was a fun sight. So Centennial and La Cueva 1-2. That will be at 3 o'clock on Saturday. The 5:30 5A game, number 1 La Cueva, number 2 Las Cruces. That'll be 5:30. On Saturday, Las Cruces beat El Dorado 1-0 in the semifinals last night, Wednesday night, and La Cueva beat Volcano Vista, also in the snow out at the APS complex. The 10 a.m. boys game, St. Pius, the defending champion, is going to play number 2, Albuquerque Academy. Great matchup. Always fun to see those two teams playing each other in a state championship format, especially in soccer, more than any other sport. And then at 12:30, the 4A girls game, you've got Hope Christian, winners of 36 games in a row, a state record, having won state in 4A 3 years in a row. Hope Christian will be playing Albuquerque Academy at 12:30 at UNM. Those two are district rivals. Academy did play them to a 1-0 game recently. Hope's only had 4 wins. Of their 22 wins, Hope's only had 4 that were by 1 goal. And their last game with Academy was one of those 4. So great matchups across the board. I'll be out covering the state cross country meet all day Saturday. Then I'll be peeling off to do the 5A boys and girls soccer games. The Journal will be all over football, soccer, cross country this weekend. We hope you will take time to consume us, either our print edition or online. My football picks, along with Adam Deal, are going to, they are appearing in the Friday Journal. We push them back from Thursday to Friday since all the games don't begin until Friday. So, yeah, watch out for those. I'll put them out on my X account probably sometime on Friday afternoon. I haven't made them yet. I'm going to make them this afternoon. So keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, we thank you for consuming this product. And once again, we thank Western New Mexico University for sponsoring. And you can pick up these podcasts on any of your favorite areas, abqjournal.com, YouTube, so on, SoundCloud, Spotify. You can pick up this podcast on any of those platforms. So I thank you for watching. I look forward to talking. We're going to talk a lot of football over the next month, and we'll recap soccer and cross country next week as well. In the meantime, have a great week. Stay safe with the weather. Travel safe if you are hitting the road for any games this weekend, and just go out and enjoy the football. And I will see you next week. Thanks.